There was once a conference in hell. The question under discussion was how to keep humankind from finding God. One of the junior devils got to his feet and said, I know, I'll go to earth and I'll tell everyone there is no God. No, said the others, that won't work. Deep down, most people know in some way or other that there is a God. So a second junior devil got up and said, I know, I'll go to earth and I'll tell them that there's no such thing as hell. No, said the others, that's no good either. Most people already know something about what hell is in their lives. The third junior devil got up and with a knowing smile, he gave his idea, and it was met with unanimous diabolical clapping and cheering. I know, he said. I know, I'll go to earth and I will tell people that there's plenty of time. Advent. Advent is an odd season, an odd time of the year in which we ask ourselves to do odd things. Lighting colored candles, gussying up in these rather spectacular pink vestments, waiting, listening to the words of prophets. It's a season, as we say over and over again, a season to resist the pull of consumerism with its fantasies of instant emotional fulfillment on credit. There are no Christmas decorations up here in church, and there won't be until Christmas actually comes on December 24th. We wait, like Mary pregnant with Christ. We wait until the time is fulfilled. Advent is a time to practice what our musty old Northern European ancestors knew from sheer necessity. When it gets dark and cold, it's best to hang up your work wheels, festoon them with evergreens and candles, hunker down and pray to God that the sun will come back someday. They knew what our plugged-in, wired-up world has forgotten. Human beings cannot work all the time. Busyness may be a socially acceptable addiction, but it is still an addiction, and over time it will kill in us what is most genuinely human. All this reminds me of a story a friend of mine tells about his childhood in the hills of Tennessee and his grandfather's long-standing Thanksgiving tradition of bringing home a live turkey for the feast. Well, to get from a live turkey to Thanksgiving dinner means doing violence to the turkey, and my mischievous friend says that his favorite moment as a gruesome little boy always came after the axe, when the headless turkey was continuing to run around the yard for a while. It was a sight, he said, which every year prompted this wise observation from his grandfather: son, the mere presence of activity is no guarantee of life. It's better with a heavy Tennessee accent, but son, the mere presence of activity. So yes, in Advent, the church asks us to slow down, to practice the patience of pregnancy, and to wait for real life to be born in us. But that's not all. Advent presents us with some curious contradictions. The waiting of Advent, its recognition that we need a break from the outward busyness of life, all of this is not like some vacation on Maui. Our waiting is not just passively sitting on the beach waiting for something, anything to happen. The kind of waiting we're called to practice is active, watchful, urgent. We're waiting not just for any old thing. We're waiting and watching for something very particular. We're waiting for the coming of Christ, for the full-bodied entrance of God into our human condition, the one who will baptize with fire, as John says. Cast out our sin and enter in, be born in us today. We sing in the beloved carol, O Little Town of Bethlehem. Cast out our sin and enter in, be born in us today. One is coming, says John the Baptizer. One is here already in your very midst. That's why our Advent liturgy is filled with the words of prophets. Prophecy is so misunderstood in our time. In popular speech, it's come to mean something like soothsaying, as though it were only about predicting the future. The guy with the cardboard sign, the end is near. When it means in the Bible, prophecy, what it means in the Bible is simply telling the truth. And not primarily about what the future holds. It's telling the truth about what is right here before us today, right here, right now. Prophets are not generally known for their social graces. You brood of vipers. John, incidentally, would not make a very good rector. Just saying. Pay attention. Say the prophets, pay attention. Clear out the junk. Leave behind your sinful obsessions. Make the path straight. Set down your anxieties about tomorrow and prepare to meet God today. Because today is the day. Now is the time, they say. There is no other. I think it's what the Buddhists mean when they speak of practicing now. It is the heart. The practicing of now is the heart of all genuine meditation, the heart of contemplative prayer across the traditions. It is the heart of what it takes to make a real difference in this world. We need to practice now. You know, from a God's eye perspective, time is not what we usually think it is. We like to think of eternity as something like linear time that goes on forever. But that's not what the word eternity means. It's not what the word eternity means. Eternity means not endless linear time, it means the absence of time. The eternal now. Eternally present to God. If you're anything like me, you may know something about the delicious and perverse appeal of procrastination. My favorite way of dealing with things I really don't want to do is to put off doing them until they grow so uncomfortable that I cannot avoid doing them any longer. The dentist and the doctor come immediately to mind, but so does the encounter with that person I know I need to confront about the hurtful thing he said to me. So does dealing with my own sin. So does dealing or doing something about the injustice of the world. An English monk I knew once told me that he had laid his very eyes on the desk of the Queen Mother, where there was a card placed right in the middle of that desk, printed in these large letters that said, "Do it now." None of us knows when Christ will come, and we should be ready to receive him at any moment. Jesus is born in our here and now. God enters the real world with its politics and pressures and with all its glory and horror. And I do not know exactly when I will meet God, but when I do, I am convinced that it will be in the same way Jesus showed up the first time. It will be in the real world. It will be now. I remember a creative celebration of the Eucharist I attended once in which the prayers of the people were accompanied by projected images on the walls of the church. One moment there was an ancient icon of Christ, and in the next moment the face of a terrified Ukrainian child. One moment, a piece of religious art, and the next, an African mother and her malnourished little girl. One moment, a beautiful sunset, and the next, armed soldiers. The images might well have been inclusive of scenes from the streets of Cleveland. The message of those images was clear, and it told the truth. Christ comes again and again and again to this world, and Christ's chosen means to do this is nothing less than through you and me, and the least of our sisters and brothers. Christ meets the world in us. Timothy Radcliffe, the former master of the Dominican order worldwide, and as of December 7th, now a cardinal in the Roman Catholic Church, writes this: "Why is waiting so much a part of being a Christian? Why can't God just give us now what we long for, justice for the poor and perfect happiness for us all? 2,000 plus years have passed since the resurrection, and still we wait for the kingdom. Why?" Timothy says, one reason why our God takes so much time is because he is not a God, small g. Our God is not a God. The coming of God, he writes, is not like the cavalry cantering into our rescue. God comes from within, inside our deepest interiority. God is closer to us than we are to ourselves. God comes to us as a child comes to a mother, in the depth of her being, through a slow transformation of who she is. Anything else, he says, would be violence and a violation. So, dear St. Paul's, I invite you to wait and to watch together in these Advent days. Let us be the presence of Christ in this world, and let it be now.